Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I'm a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on September 21st, 2022 at approximately 1:15 p.m. PST. Well, figured, might just as well get underway here. So hopefully things will show up. I don't know. See, I don't understand what happened. It used to give me a feed right off the bat, and now for whatever reason it does not. As in my email. So here we are anyway. That being said, I wanted to take a look at, or more to the point, I desired to take a look at redirecting the energy in your life, in your primary living space, and or your business. Now, there's a lot of ways of doing it, and if you read up on Feng Shui, which is an Eastern philosophy, it works great the way they've laid it out if you live in an Eastern country. And the reason for that seems to be that their whole culture is built that way. But the principle is still very much the same. Okay, whereas they will talk about putting your finances in the northeast corner or in the north corner. I honestly don't know because I've never actually looked into much of it. Okay, but the principle is very much the case. So what I've done now, and of course, because of the way my camera is sitting, and I have no way of modifying that right now, you'll have to bear with that side of it. But what I have done, in case you haven't noticed, over here I've managed to get my inventory is on my bottom shelves. And of course, with that in mind, before I go any further, do understand I build myself as a spiritual guide for one reason. And that is that the tools I offer are the exact same tools that I personally put to use. And the philosophies of life that I talk about are the ones I personally live by. This is not a question of do this because it works and I'm going to do something else because it works better. In all fairness, I am not perfect by any functional stretch. Okay, I'd love to say I am, and I can, but they call it lying. Okay, so what I look at is this. If you go to my one website, which is rkeithandrews.com, you'll find a list of the seven books I've got currently in print. And you can see some of them over on these shelves here. But the bottom two shelves, actually the bottom three on this side, and over here, it's the bottom two, are strictly used for inventory. So when somebody orders a book, any one of them, and absolutely check out my website. Okay, if you like the video, do give us a thumbs up. Okay, subscribe to the channel because I'm working on getting a whole pile more information out so that you yourself can actually co-create the future you desire. The reality is nothing is written in stone. Well, some things are, but you get the idea. Make the stone, carve something into it, it's written in stone. But the future is not set. However, at this point, we are on a very dangerous path and not a really good one. Okay, so when we're talking about reorganizing the energy, take a look at where things are. Now, I look at this area here, which is my workspace. This is where I do all of my writing. This is where I do all the writing. This is where I do all of my organizing, my thinking, that sort of thing. So I've got my laptop here. I've got 3 monitors up here that I work in right now. As we speak, I think I've got 15 documents up and running, which is why I've got more RAM. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 16 videos up and running, or 16 documents there, plus 2 more. So I've got 18 documents up and running. And yes, one of my goals for the future is going to be getting a better computer system, or a more powerful one anyway. I don't video game. In case you hadn't noticed, that is not what my life revolves around. Okay, so I've got 18 documents up and running, 12 of which are actually books I'm working on. And I've recently decided on one very simple thing. Okay, And that is, I've sunk a lot of money into access to the web and what have you. And honestly, for me, it hasn't worked. People have said, oh, we'll get you on all these websites. I've spent a staggering amount of money to me and really had no effect with it. So I've decided that I'm not sinking more money into it. Okay, this is what's called know your limits. Know what's working. Okay, now I do have Facebook, obviously. Okay, at least I think it's obvious. I've got my YouTube channel. I've got Twitter and LinkedIn. And I just recently was talking to somebody. I will be opening up an Instagram channel. That'll likely get done once I'm done this. And once I'm done this video. Because today, because I've got to work at 3 o'clock, I've got to go on shift. I'll be shutting this down before that, somewhere after 2:30. In the meantime, I'm looking at my computer system here. Okay, I've got my phone there, my printer right here within arm's reach. Okay, and of course this neat little thing. Okay, I always keep, what is that? Oh, let's pull that up because it is kind of convenient. This one here, I've moved my list onto this. I've moved my list onto the laptop, onto a spreadsheet. Okay, because quite frankly, I'm looking at this stuff and there's nothing. Oh, those were already done. I keep a list here and then I'll copy it over onto my spreadsheet to make sure that I stay on top of getting things out of the way. Okay, so that's my workstation. And then, of course, down underneath my desk, and obviously you're not going to see this. I've got a recycle bin, I've got my garbage can, I've got my paper shredder, and then I've got room for my feet. Kind of a necessary thing if you have feet. Or for that matter, if you're stuck in a wheelchair, it's still kind of nice to be able to get underneath your keyboard. So I organize things to make the energy run smoothly. Now, right now, I've got full access here. Okay, and of course, across here, I've just started up, and people keep asking me about the figures I work with. So what I went and did, this is that arboreum that I was showing you yesterday. Okay, we made some headway with it. This is as far as it's got so far. Now, I may tangle with more of it while I'm here, while I'm on today. I'm not entirely certain yet. Okay, what I have come to the understanding of is when you're making the choice to really move forward with your life, okay, it is critical that you plan things out. The old saying, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. Okay, but this is how far he's got so far. Now, I've still got some more that's going to be done, obviously, because I'm not leaving him that way. But I'll get to more of him a little later. Or maybe now, I don't know. We'll figure it out. In any event, up on this shelf, okay, just standing up right here, and you can see by my elbow where I'm pointing, but you can't see the shelf, sorry. I've got different figures that I'm working on. But up on the top of this one, well, I'm going to do that thing I seldom do, but since it's dinging, I will be right back. I forgot to grab my coffee before I came in here, so give me 5 seconds here and I'll be right back. I forgot my coffee. Video's still running. Okay, now I've got my coffee. Nice thing about microwaves is you can actually get your coffee going properly and then have it. Yes, my other coffee cup happens to be sitting in the sink right now, primarily because of the fact I used it for soup. But priorities first, got to keep the coffee handy. Well, that's not really a priority, but what the heck. So I managed to get that all sorted around. Over on this right now, like I said, I've got figures up here that I'm working on that I'm painting right now. And then on the top shelf up here, I've got different characters, different figures that I've selected for the Yldrbac Chronicles. Okay. Now these are up here because I'm starting to work towards painting them and getting them tied off in a methodical fashion. And again, it really boils down to one thing very simply. Make certain when you're working on something, get the project laid out so you can actually make headway with it. Oh, that's what that is. Look at this box over here. This stuff down here, it's underneath my painting station, but it gets it organized. Like I mentioned the other day, I closed down my storage unit, so I've had to make some minor adjustments. But the Yldrbac Chronicles, they really are my big issue. Okay, and this is one of 12 in the series that are going to come out. Okay, this is Birth of the Wolf Pack. And this gentleman, because I don't have access right now to appropriate characters as in military type figures. Okay, I'm just using fantasy type ones. This is the character I'm using to represent Blade. And as you can see, Blade happens to be a black man. Now, there's a comment that goes hand in hand with Blade when you're looking at the Chronicles. It's not a question of will a fight break out with him. It's a question of when. Now, you got to understand, there's a whole pile of background to him that gets revealed as we go along. One of the things you got to remember with Blade is his color's got nothing to do with anything. It's got more to do with his upbringing. Okay, so what I'm working on here is these figures. Now, where is the other one that should be up there? Right there. This is another one of the characters that you've seen before. Another one of the figures. But this one here, okay, is the figure that I use to represent interaction. Actually, there is a name for him, and I'll have to get back to you on it because I just don't recall the name offhand. But this is one of the Arborians, the Billion, and you've seen him before. This is Billion here. Okay. This is Billion here. Now, we've got him a little bit more finished off. I'm going to be doing some more painting on him as well. And like I said, these ones all sit up here because they're all characters from the Yldrbac Chronicles. So this guy goes up here. Now, you get this all organized, and like I said, we've got the Yldrbac Chronicle figures up here, the active figures that I'm painting down here. Then I've got the books all 7 of the books that I've written are sitting on the 3rd shelf. Then we go down below and I've got where my finances are. Again, this boils down to really getting an idea of where your priorities are. Making certain that you get the energy running smoothly. So I've got that. Now this shelf here that I'm looking at here, and again, unfortunately you can't see it, but I can't do much with that because I don't have a portable camera yet. But that shelf I'm working on emptying, it used to be really heavily full of paperwork, that I've been going through and getting rid of, or filing where it belonged. And then that station, where is it? This station, don't need that there. Remember I mentioned I also do online horoscopes. This is the book. Now, here's something. And this is a complete sidetrack for you. A person asked me one day, they wanted me to take a look at their astrological layout. So I said, let me grab my book. And she turns around and goes, well, if you don't know it off by heart, you're not a good astrologer. So I'm going to clarify something for those of you that have never seen one of these. Now, for those of you that are studying astrology or working with astrology to start with, let's understand something. Okay. Open this book up at any page and see all those. Those are all numbers for different months of the year. Okay. Or for different days, rather. Days, months. This is for November. This whole page here is November. Okay. This one is January. Now, it doesn't matter what year because it's all the same. You can see I've got 4 years on one open page. We don't memorize these things. Okay, there are very few people. I know some people that can. I don't. Okay, but when people are talking about an ephemeris, this is what they're talking about. Okay, and as you can see, it's been rather well used. Okay. So, I mean, every page is the same way. Can you picture trying to memorize all of these things? Okay, so I don't bother. But when you're done working with something, very important little factor to remember. Gotta be. And that is to make certain that when you're done with something that you've been working with, pick it up and put it away. Okay. This is why this is my painting desk here. And if I take a look at it, I can grab, no, that's purple, don't need that. What do we got? That is black, I require that. Trying out that one, let us see here. Because I figure I'm sitting here, I might as well do part of this while I'm at it. And before anybody comes to that brilliant conclusion, no, I did get checked into, but actually I'm not what they call ADD or ADHD, attention deficit disorder, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I was told point blank I don't have any of them because of the fact that I do actually manage to get things completed. Of course, the catch to it, as the one guy that looked at it said, he says, you definitely don't have the disorder. But he says, you probably find you get a whole lot more accomplished. You get things finished off a lot faster if you would quit doing 15 things at once, which is undoubtedly true. Okay, it undoubtedly is true. Problem is, I have a tendency of getting too many things on the go at the same time. So I'm just going to grab this guy. And while I'm talking to you here, because it really boils down to understanding what you're doing, how energy works. And energy, you got to remember, it is not like electricity. Energy itself, what happens is it runs both directions at once. Okay, which is a wonderful thing. If you can get energy to run both directions at the same time, what you end up with is a situation where you can get a lot more accomplished if you understand it, or more to the point, if you accept it. So from my standpoint, I just look at it going, okay, this is the way I'm doing things. And, in all fairness, it may not be the best way, but it works for me. So all I'm doing at this point, I've just got style, I've got the black, I've got to add to it. Just to complete this particular part of the character. This part of the figure. But it boils down to knowing what you're aiming for. What is the outcome you're looking for? If you're content with the way your life is going, the odds are you're not talking to me or not watching me. Because I came to the conclusion, and it was a real simple one for me. Well, the conclusion was simple. The problem was the journey took me forever. Okay. So I'm looking at these characters, these figures, and going, I've got to get them done so that I'm content, not so that other people are. Now, here's the thing. Like I mentioned, a lot of people say you got to do a lot of advertising. Well, guess what? I have literally spent thousands of dollars on advertising, on the net. with no functional impact. So what I'm doing at this point is I am simply going to be focusing on my efforts, as in Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and I will be setting up an Instagram page later today. Okay, if not later today, at least by tomorrow. I do my best not to get caught up in a whole lot of too heavy planning because, well, in case you hadn't noticed, I get sidetracked. Okay, and that doesn't work all that well for planning things all the time. But I will do what I can. And that's a phone that I'm just going to ignore. Oh, I'm sitting on it. So I really am going to ignore it, but I don't like it buzzing in my pocket. Oh, same person. The gentleman that you're hearing ring there, this is one of the reasons why I decided, no, I'm just not doing any more online advertising aside from what I personally put out. This particular phone call that you're hearing, I told them specifically, phone me at 10 o'clock. Okay, what did they do? They phoned at 9, at 9:30, at 11:30, and then they phoned twice since then. You'll notice they missed 10 o'clock altogether. And for me, that tells me right there, this company is not one I'm willing to work with. Besides that, I can't see justifying another couple $1,000 when none of what I've done for the online advertising that people have said they would work for me, literally none of it has worked. So I'm just working with what I've got. And we'll see where it goes from there. Ultimately the idea is get these stories written, get the whole chronicle written and get it in print, and then I'll worry about it from there. Because I cannot, in all fairness, or more to the point, I will not bother with trying to get things more complicated, spend more money on a guess. So I'm just going to do it one step at a time. And like I said, money, whenever you're looking at finances, whenever you're looking at the material world, it is critical that you realize money has to be a side effect. It cannot be the focus. Well, it can be, but honestly, it doesn't work that well. Not from anything I've seen. And the neat part there is I've been doing this work with people, as far as helping them look at their business, helping them look at where the holdups are as far as their cash flow goes. Now, I am not a professional accountant. Understand that. But this is why I say when I talk to people about the tools that I use, that I'm talking about using, they're the same ones I personally use. Okay. And that's how I know they work. Now, the fact that I have handed these same tools over to countless people with a reasonable amount of reported success on their part, I'm personally thinking this is not a bad move. But absolutely, and I've been asked this before, if you ever want to talk to me directly, there's no problem. Okay, if you look below this video, you'll find a whole list of ways of getting a hold of me. The only thing is, I only deal in video. Okay, I shouldn't say only, but primarily, if you're looking to talk to me directly, phoning me doesn't work that well. I work with video. Now, yes, I'm a bit of a dinosaur in some ways, but that's not one of them. So I look at this going, okay, I do have an account on Skype, an account on Facebook Messenger. I've got an account on LinkedIn. All three have video options. Okay. But I ran into a problem a number of years ago, right, where somebody claimed that they were one person. And when the truth finally came out, it turned out not only were they not that person, but they were not that gender. So I just came to the conclusion, if people want to talk to me, they will come and track me down. and they will agree to video, or we're just not going to talk. And don't get me wrong, if you've got a question, absolutely drop me an email. Drop me a line on Messenger, wherever. Drop me a question. Doesn't matter the industry. Okay, doesn't matter what the question is. I've dealt with literally everything from relationships to business to UFO encounters to missing time, metaphysical things. I've been doing this since I was 10. Okay, so I have no problem talking about it. I have no problem being straightforward with you and going, this is what I'm sensing, or this is what I'm being shown. But if you're looking to actually talk to me directly, okay, quite often you're going to get a whole lot better response from me if you're dealing with video and contacting me, so I know exactly who I'm dealing with. Because realistically, in a nutshell, trust, frankly, is not one of my strong suits. Probably not the right thing to tell people, but at least I'm being straightforward and honest with you. I'm not leaving a whole lot of room for misunderstanding. This is just the way things are for me. Okay. But, I've got my shelf set up properly. Now, let me show you something else here. I'm just going to set that down. Whoop. Get just a little bit more black here. And that particular, I wonder if I've got to set it. I won't throw that out, but pretty certain that what I've got here is a situation. Got a situation here where the paintbrush itself is offset. So I'm going to have to cure that problem. But for the moment, this is working rather nicely, at least from my end. Am I perfect? No, I don't think I'd call myself that. But hey, it's working for me, sort of. Let's see here. If I grab that and put that there. Yeah, I'm going to have to do something about that. But for the moment, pop that over here. Now, the nice part about it, when you're looking at the energy, okay, I've got, like I said, my inventory is all down here. But up here, this shelf here this shelf has the hard copy writing that I've been doing. Okay. And then, of course, I've got the odds and ends. And again, this boils down to making certain that things are organized. So you can just get up and walk over and go, there it is. Okay. And this is what I'm talking about when I'm referring to making sure that the energy is running right. Now, here's the kicker to it. Okay, if the energy is not running right, what you'll find is you get really badly scattered and get virtually nothing accomplished. So what I've got going on at this point is I've got a lot of different documents, and this is where having 4 monitors up and running is really handy. But people have talked to me, well, why don't you get an Apple? Because I work with an IBM. Okay. And the reality for me is that's working quite nicely. I only need it for office work. I don't do a lot of video work. Okay. But, you can't see it. Oh, yes, you can. See, when we go over to even my filing cabinet here, get that out of the way. Even my filing cabinet. I've got a filing cabinet that's got all my active files. This one that's got this is files that have to be stored. So I just have to get a box for them. And then we've got different short stories and what have you, different thought lines I've got in this one. Of course, the one you can't see is the bottom drawer. And the bottom drawer itself is literally full. That's a standard legal size filing cabinet. And the bottom drawer itself is full of loose leaf paper. I lucked out a number of years ago. The store in question, and I think it was Walmart, had school supplies on for 25 cents for 250 sheets. So I got a little carried away and ended up with probably, well, 250, probably 10,000 sheets of paper. Now, bear in mind, I'm still very much a dinosaur. Okay, so when I'm talking about making sure that the energy is running right and that you've got things moving in the right direction, it really boils down to deciding what works for you. And as you can see, actually, you really can't see. Way over here, and I'm going to have to find a way to do something about it. I decided I was going to build an empire. Okay, build an actual recovery center. So what did I do to start making this happen? Well, I took a sheet of paper and literally, we own the empire, Inner Voice Enterprises. That's all I did. You'll notice it's in present tense. Okay, gotta find a better place to hang it, and this will work quite nicely because I don't have to worry about it too much. Let's see if it sits here properly. If I hang it up here, then I can see it easy enough. Okay, even when I'm sitting down, it's not that clear because of the fact it's not written as thick as it could be, but it does put it down properly. Now, you'll notice there's another picture there beside the yellow sheet of paper. Okay, that is a picture of one of Tolkien's pieces. And I believe, if I recall correctly, and let's see if it tells me. Does it actually tell me? No. But yeah, this is just a print that I picked up of Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. And this is Treebeard and Saruman's Tower. Nope, that's not Saruman's. That's actually Sauron's Tower. Right. At least I suspect anyway. But that's what I've got hanging up there. And again, it really boils down to decorating or setting the energy in place properly so that you're content with it. Okay. But it's absolutely critical from your standpoint that you turn around and really take a look at the way your world is going. Are you content with what's happening? If the answer is yes, this is fantastic. So what I've got, I do not like listening to phones ringing in the background, but I can't do anything about it, so I'm not going to. Okay, when we're talking about making your world run smoothly, it's absolutely critical that you take a look at things and go, okay, what am I personally aiming for? This is not what is right for me. It's not what's right for anybody. It's a question of what you see is important to you. Okay, that's the real big factor that you look at. No, not holiday red. That's neon. That's not what I want. Where did I do it? Tucson red. And that's bright. And for me, it's the Tucson I use for that fungus. Neat part when I was on here yesterday, I believe, one of the people in the chat room by the name of Jenny, and I don't honestly know what her last name is, what her real name is. I just know what that name was. Made the suggestion that I take the fungus and go with red. So I figured, okay, it's not bad. It was one I never even thought of. So I looked it up on the net. Turns out, because I like writing with a modicum of continuity to it, I tend to look at things and go, okay, is that a realistic color? Well, as it turns out, red fungus. Okay, now bear in mind, this particular character, and I haven't actually picked a name for him. Okay, but this particular character is in book 12. Okay, he's iron. He's made of ironwood. It's an ironwood arborea. So I turned around and went, okay, let's look at it. Apparently, red is a viable color for fungus. So I decided I was going to go with it. Figured, what the heck? The suggestion was made, and as it turned out, it was very much a real one. So I went with it. And now what I'm doing is just adding more to it. Because like I said, I do want to get these things done. And the reality of it is this. When you lay out plans for yourself, the reason for breaking them into 15-minute to half-hour tasks is to enable yourself to get them finished and help you feel that you're actually getting things accomplished. It can be a bit of a challenge. And this is why the list. So that when you're doing something, you can actually focus on it, make that happen. And if you only get part of it done, you still feel like you've got some stuff accomplished. Okay, hopefully that makes sense to you. Lord knows it makes sense to me, but that doesn't necessarily mean much. The same thing applies when you're writing. I've got the entire saga I've got opened up, the entire Yldrbacian saga I've got laid out and open. So I'll be working on all of the books today, or most of them anyway. But by focusing on this side of it, by focusing on the bits and pieces of painting that I'm working with and that sort of thing, I can get a lot more accomplished and feel like I've got a lot more accomplished. And realistically, like the other thing I looked at, I talked for a while there about bringing my weight down. Well, that worked like a charm. I still haven't hit the goal I'm aiming for, but I am getting close. And sad to say, I quit doing some of what was working, which, by the way, one of the things that was working as far as my weight went was going for a daily walk. Now, why that stopped? Well, because I quit leaving the house. So you take a look at what you're doing. Is what you're doing actually working towards attaining the goals that you've talked about? Are you actually getting things completed? Now, one of the things I find with a lot of people is they go, oh, I've got ADHD. What they've got is a problem with motivation in most cases. Now, don't get me wrong. ADD and ADHD are both extremely, extremely complicated problems. Okay. But there are coping mechanisms. Okay. Virtually every problem that you've got, every problem that exists, there are ways to cope with it. But the real catch to it is, number one, you have to actually believe it's possible for it to work. And then you've got to turn around and put the effort into it. Because if you don't put the effort into it, all the possibilities in the world won't matter. So what I'm doing here right now, because I can only do so much, I can only do so much before I have to take a break or I overextend my own energy levels. But the nice part about it is this does work. And again, the tools that I work with, and I don't mean the paintbrush, I mean the mindset, are the tools the ones I talk about are the ones I personally put to use. Okay, and that can be the real crux of whether or not you succeed, is pick tools that you personally can implement, that you can actually work with. The reality is, I tried my hand at construction, and found out about the only time I actually drove a nail straight was by accident. So I just decided that was not the road I was going to go down. Now, the neat part about this is working like an absolute charm for me. You know, but you have to come to understand one critical factor. Okay, and that's that four word segment that I've talked about so often. And you write and put I have it posted in my office, okay, on my fridge in my kitchen and on my front door. Just 4 words. I am worth it. The 4 most powerful words I've come across this lifetime, where it comes to self-motivation, self-esteem, self-actualization, all these things that, yes, it sounds a little, shall we say, egocentric, a little focused on yourself. But the reality is, you must be true to you first. Now, why, you ask, am I actually telling you this? Well, the reality is, I've had a lot of problems trying to get ahead. Okay, trying to really make ends meet and become as successful as I would like. By the way, for me, success boils down to not having to worry whether my rent's paid. Okay, that really is the epitome of success to my way of thinking. Because if I'm not worried about my rent, then I can deal with other things. So now what I'm dealing with is, again, we've got the red fungus coming up, as you can see. Okay, because it's very important from my standpoint to make things fit properly, to have them come together. And for me, this is actually working quite nicely. So again, and like I said, when we're talking about energy, okay, and the energy flow, the more freely the energy flow in your primary living space and or workspace runs, the easier it is going to be to keep keep yourself motivated and to get things accomplished. But it does boil down to an issue of understanding. First and foremost, your effort on your life is critically required. Because when you think about it, if you're not willing to put the effort in on your own life, why, pray tell, would other people want to? Okay. I mean, yes, don't get me wrong. There are people out there that will absolutely step up to the plate and go, hey, let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do to help you land on your feet and move forward. And from my standpoint, that is an excellent way of doing things. However, you also have to keep in mind, or at least it's best to keep in mind, that you cannot protect people from themselves, especially if they're not willing to be helped. Now, I find this most prominent amongst alcoholics or drug addicts, where they require help, but if they're not willing to do the work, you're not going to be able to help them. That's just the sad reality of it. And I'm not debating you should care about people. Do not get me wrong on that. You really should. The more we care about each other, the better the energy is going to run, and the more smoothly, the more effectively things are going to shift. But it is going to require our combined effort and our concerted effort to make it happen. Now, hopefully this is making sense. And let me see here. Nope. Okay. I figured, the way I figured it, it was sort of a question of, okay, how was I going to make my world work a little bit more effectively? So I came to the conclusion that I can do things in one of 2 fashions. I can do what everybody else has done and go, let's flood the market with all these videos, point out all the stupid things people are doing, and telling people, look, I know this, you guys don't want this seen, but I'm going to show it anyway. You won't ever find me doing that. Okay, because of karmic law number 3, energy out, energy in. And what that really boils down to is when you're putting effort into something, that's what you are encouraging to come back to you. Now, I don't know about you, but from my standpoint, I'm just not that interested in complications. I seem to get more than my fair share of them, but that may only be because of the fact that I look at things and go, this is what I'm feeling. You know, what you have to look at when you're talking about energy flow, really look at where you're putting your effort, where you're focusing your energy. Are you focusing it on helping other people? Or are you focusing your energy on hurting other people? Ultimately, the choice is yours. Okay, so what I'm doing here is realistically, I am simply filling in gaps and going, okay, this is what I require. I think part of my problem with this, particularly with some of these figures, is I can paint them, that's fine. I cannot, at this point, figure out how to replicate them. You know, so right now it boils down to an issue of, okay, what do we do with it? Okay, now, where it comes to your energy levels, I find if I don't keep busy, I end up having to grab a nap. Like, I've been up since 4 o'clock this morning. And in all fairness, I haven't actually slowed down at all today. Which is kind of odd to it saying, in and of itself. It's kind of odd from that standpoint. But I'm looking at this going, okay, if I look at my office, right, I go into my office down here, dining room, kitchen, living room, hall, that's the center hall, office, there we go. Yeah, I've got the middle desk, top shade, oh, that's the cages, okay. So what do we got here? If I go over here, oh, that's inventory. That shouldn't be up there. And this is what I was referring to about getting things organized. So I take this. This book can stay there because it's a reference book. It's not actually inventory. This, on the other hand, is. There we go. Like I said, pick where you desire things. Now, that stuff there, that was the books. These books are not part of my inventory. Okay, but these boxes here are. And I'll show you something. As I said, with the Yldrbac Chronicles, okay, when I wrote them, understand, I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons now since June of 76. I was introduced to it at Christmas of 75, but I started playing regularly in June of 76. Okay, to that end, as I said, regarding the Chronicles, they are written by a gamer with gamers in mind. So in that series, I do have, and as a matter of fact, I'm writing right now in book 12, I'm writing a chapter that is literally revolving around the gamers in a gaming environment. Okay, so I'm involving all of these guys. As a matter of fact, the gamers themselves show up at the end of book 10. Okay, so I've written them right into it. And where is what I'm looking for? Of course, I don't have my glasses on, so I can't see that far. Stand up and oh, there we are. Showed you these the other day. Okay. Now these are custom made. These are actually custom made boxes. Okay. These ones are limited edition. Now this one in particular I'm keeping because it's set 1 of 10. I've only got 10 or got 5 left of these particular boxes. Now I will tell you they are kind of on the pricey side because, well, frankly, it's costing me well over $200 a piece to make them in the first place. But these are the dice that go with them. Now these I didn't have made. These are made professionally. Okay, that's an 8-sided dice. But I built a set of dice for the game and for the gamers in the game. Okay, and that's where these come from. I have other artifacts I'm working on. Now that one sits there because it's not being sold. But I've got another 5 of them up there. Now, because they are custom-made wood boxes, okay, there is no question they are rather expensive. Okay, and that's why I haven't set them up on my website yet. I will get to that as soon as I can. But I have come to the conclusion that trying to do things the way that people tell me they should be done, you've got to advertise a whole pile. No, you don't. Okay, you've got to get word out, absolutely. Okay. Where did I put it? Right there. This is what I meant by being organized. This little file, okay, this little duotang, if you look at it, it says Inner Voice Enterprises Corporate Structure. Now, I have no functional intention on opening a corporation for one reason. My understanding is that the second you incorporate, you have to have a board of directors. And if that's the case, the board of directors, the way the laws seem to sit right now, and I may be mistaken, and there may be safeguards I haven't looked into. Okay, but the way it's written right now, my understanding is that a board of directors can actually force you out of your own company. I'm not taking that chance. Will I eventually have a board of advisors? Certainly. Okay. But I keep this stuff handy so I know where it is and can carry on working with it. Okay. You'll notice, and I will be, once I'm done this recording, I will be bringing a second chair in to put over by my painting station so I can just get up, go over there, sit down, and paint when I choose to. This character, I'm going to leave him dry for a bit, but as you can see, he's got a little bit more red. I've filled in a little more of the black with him. So we'll just put him up here to dry for the time being. And as I get the characters tied off, I will put them aside. I'll finish them off and get them out of the way. But you have to take a look at things and go, okay, which way are you running? Didn't catch you there, Krista. Oh, sorry, Kiara. Welcome aboard. Glad you joined us. The neat thing with lunch, because I work from home, and this is one of the reasons I'm only going to be on here for about another 20 minutes. I do have a regular job that I've got to log into. Okay. But the nice part about a lunch, when you've got time for it, you find a way to relax, to wind down. Okay. One of the things I'm looking at, and I made this comment to my son this morning, okay, is that I am now taking a step back and looking at things and going, okay, what is it I've got to do for me to attain the goals I desire? Okay, in spite of all the obstacles that are out there. So I decided that I'm looking at my finances going, spending money on advertising, on people saying, oh, I can get you more coverage and what have you, has done me zero good. Okay, so I'm going to be sticking for the time being to Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and today I will be getting an account up and running on Instagram. Okay, but the idea there is that I will put the effort into it. I've got to start running things like a business. I keep telling people, if you desire to accomplish something, it's not a question of just hope. It's a question of really get up and put the effort into it. And for pity's sakes, if you're not content with the job you're doing, if you're not content with your current lawyer and with your current employer, or your current career, it doesn't matter. Do not just up and quit without a viable backup. Okay, if you're not content with your job, absolutely look for a new one. Absolutely do. Okay, the thing to keep in mind is this, and I was told the same thing, by the way, that you've got to have a direction in life picked by the time you're 20 in order to be successful. Well, I'll tell you what I found out in my field is that most people do not actually know what they desire to do until such time as they get around to doing it, until they get into their late 40s, early 50s. Now, I'm a bit of a late bloomer on that one. I was almost in my mid 50s before I finally said, I've got this storyline, and I desire this storyline to be put to print. Net result is I've got these two, right, which is The Birth of the Wolf Pack. That's actually number 10 in the saga, but it's the first book in the fourth trilogy. Then I've got The End of an Epoch, okay, which picks up directly, like literally, I take the last part of the last paragraph of The Birth of the Wolf Pack. It becomes the prologue for The End of an Epoch. I'm just over halfway finished writing Return to Paradise. I've already got the artwork done for it. Okay. And then we've got this other one. Okay. Races of the Worlds. Now, as you can see, these books are already in print. This is a reference manual. It gives basically data, okay, on culture, on military, on their, on what the government looks like, that sort of thing. But this gives you the data, and many of the races here I shouldn't say many, I should say some of the races in here are actually detailed in the Yldrbacian Chronicles as far as their attitudes go. Wish I could actually see that, but I can't. Yeah. So, neat part there, Kira. You've got a business yourself, okay, and you take a definitive lunch break. For me, I'm not that relegated to an actual pattern. I get lunch when I'm ready for it, because as you well know, for me it boils down to this: I am aiming at taking all of my writing and getting that to be my primary income. But I have no intention on quitting my current job until I'm making the money at it. Okay, but I will tell you this. And like the definition I heard a long time ago for an entrepreneur, okay, was an entrepreneur is someone who is willing to spend 16 hours a day working for themselves, so you don't have to spend 8 hours a day working for somebody else. Now, one of the best tricks I found was this little tool. Okay, and as you can see, I keep it handy. But all you do is, because we're talking about a household and business, okay, here we have legally acquired a minimum of $3,800 by, well, right now this says August 31st, 2022. I didn't upgrade this one. I didn't make my goal, so it could have stayed as of September anyway. So this is one of those things that we go into. Where are we here? Go into that little thing, and we make a note for ourselves, which really boils down to go all the way back up here. There we go. Now I set it up. Yeah, the important factor, one thing I will suggest, Kara. Terry, how you doing? Glad you made it. The one thing I do suggest, pick 2 days of the week that you shut the business. Regardless of what the business is, pick 2 days of the week that you close the doors. Now, I personally work about 7 days a week because I'm also employed. So I work when I've got the time for it. Okay. But that little statement there, I do that to give myself a goal. Okay. The business itself, Inner Voice Enterprises, has legally generated a minimum of $700 by August 31st. Now, again, I did not update this, and I just made a note to do so. Okay. And by doing that, it keeps it fresh in my mind what I'm actually looking for, what I'm actually aiming at. Update financial, not record, update financial goals. I will do that quite literally as soon as I get off the video today. Okay, but it really boils down to, nice seeing you here as well, Terry. It really boils down to picking what your goals are, what your boundaries are. What do you define as being successful? And as I heard somebody put the other day, you take the little wins and call them good. You go, okay, that was a win. Like, for instance, I've got my inventory laid out over here. To me, that is extremely important. Being able to get up, walk over, and grab my corporate layout, absolutely a necessity. And of course, as soon as I get done here, I've got all kinds of tasks already laid out. Do I say I'm the best? By no means. Okay, I am still learning the advertising side of things, because the reality is I've never been driven by money. And this is the one thing that you have to understand, even when you're organizing the energy flow. I talked about having your money all in one place. Okay. Well, I work on my money on the computer. I've got my petty cash down below here. Okay, but it's all in a local area. And the reason for that is to keep the energy running properly. Okay. Now, one thing I do ask on a regular basis, at least I think I do, if you've got a topic that you do desire me to look at, because I look at pretty much everything across the board. Okay. One of the biggest things I was looking at, and I think I'm going to end up dealing with that in the next day or two, is twofold. One is talking about something called the OCT, the OCE drive. Okay, which is a star drive used by many of the off-worlders. Absolutely. And I do agree with you there, Kira. If you're having people come to work with you, absolutely imperative, it is an enjoyable place to work. That it is an enjoyable place for people to interact, but is still professionally driven. Okay. From my standpoint, that issue you've got of helping those less fortunate, I recommend, like I've already mentioned, find out what you require to run your household, to run your business. Once you've got that amount of money taken care of, and this is what I mean by be true to yourself first. Figure out what you require to run your business, your household. After that, once you've got that money dealt with, everything that comes in above that, I recommend taking 10% of what is called the net profit and using that to help other people. Now, I personally will give to a food bank, and I will donate food to a SPCA or that sort of thing. Absolutely, I will. I will not donate money to a registered charity or to a church, because most of that money will go to administration. Yeah, and like I spend a lot of time down at the skateboard park near me, where I will talk to the troubled kids that are sitting there, just giving them an ear, not telling them, oh, you're doing everything wrong. Everybody runs into snags somewhere along the way. Okay. And this is why, like, when I go out, if I've got the money and I see somebody there begging for money, okay, the first thing I find out is why they're out there. And then I'll turn around and, like, there's one woman I know of that she is on medical assistance. Okay. And, like, I know her personally. So I know in this case, she really is doing her best and can't get very far ahead. So what I do is I go in and buy her a bag of groceries and go, here you go. You know, it's funny. You know, they used to call me when marijuana was still illegal. I go down and most of the people at the park, you know, we're talking 10 years ago, really. But most of the people down there, most of the kids, used to refer to me and actually introduce me as their grandfather. Now, I wasn't that old at that point. 10 years ago, I was still under 50. I'm only 59 now. You know, but I've had gray hair for years. And they'd turn around, and when they met new people, they'd introduce me as their grandfather. You know, but I never gave them a bad time about, oh, you're doing drugs and you're just wasting your life. That is not the way to deal with this. It doesn't work well. Okay. But when I talk about long range building a recovery center, I'm referring to building something that takes religion, spirituality, self-help, and the whole 9 yards of etiquette, you know, of education, and putting it all together. I'm guessing this means, Kira, that you're sitting in good shape, physically speaking. Okay. For me, I don't like the way I look, but I can't do much about it, so I'm staying with it. Okay. But, you know, I like, from my standpoint, I've never worried about appearance per se. Okay. But as long as you're functioning, you're healthy, hey, keep up with it. You know, there was a chap here for a while. He was 84 years old, and I could not match pace with the guy going out for a walk around the park. He used to go around all the time. I think he has passed away since then, because it's been 2 or 3 years since I've seen him. But he'd go around a almost kilometer lap, which is just over half a mile. Okay, and he'd do it in under 10 minutes. Well, I made the mistake of trying to match pace with him. Went around 3 times matching pace, went home and had a heart attack, decided that was a bad idea. So just didn't bother trying to keep up anymore. You know, I got good genes too. I just replaced a pair. No, that's a whole different issue. No, I've got a healing rate that is almost impossible to track, and that's what's got the doctors confused. But this does not mean I'm perfect, because I'll tell you, my teeth are anything but perfect. You know, so I look at it going this way. You keep yourself active, you keep your mind working, and that will help put things in place. You know, from my perspective, it really boils down to staying focused on what you desire to accomplish. What do you see as being successful? For me, it boils down to getting rid of the clutter, getting the energy working properly. And the biggest goal I've got right now is this 12-volume saga. Okay, but I have come to the conclusion that I will work with it the way I am. How you doing, Charlene? Glad you made it. Yeah, and what I've been finding, just for your edification, is I'm trying to get on here in the afternoon, because getting on in the morning wasn't working. So I find if I can get on by about 1:30 in the afternoon, I can run for an hour or two. Okay, because I have to be done here. Then that's 1:30 in the afternoon Pacific. Because I have to be off here and ready to go to work for 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And usually I log in about 15 minutes early. So I cannot be on here at that point. But if you're ever trying to track me down, okay, I do take video calls, to talk to people, but never between 3 p.m. Well, seldom between 3 p.m. and 10 p.m. Monday to Friday, because that's when I'm actually on shift. And, the reality is I won't be doing a live stream at that point for exactly that reason. Okay. But I do, the stuff I talk about here, I am doing my best to get it onto paper as soon as I can get it there. And I will be looking at, and I bounced this off the other day. I don't know if it's a good idea yet. And I'd love your guys' input into it, about reading excerpts out of the Yldrbacian Chronicles, just to let people know what's going on. It's just an idea I came up with that, somebody else suggested it, to draw attention, to draw awareness. Because even the best books in the world are absolutely useless if nobody knows they're there. Now, I'm sort of having to figure out, how to deal with things. I had to deal with things on how do you go about marketing? How do you go about letting people know? Because the money is not my driving factor. It never has been. But I did have to put a price tag on things, because if I don't, I cannot afford to reorder them. This is one of the reasons why when we take a look at these, okay, if it's local, it's real easy. Okay, because of the fact that's the Birth of the Wolf Pack, and it sells at $40 as is. But because of the cost of shipping, right now it's costing $25 per book to ship it. Okay. And I wish I could absorb that, but I just don't have that kind of funding right now. In time, maybe I will. But if we take a look at these, okay, like this one, for instance, believe in yourself and follow your dreams. That is literally the backbone of how I turned my life around. Okay. That is what I use to get myself back on a decent track. And then, of course, we've got, I think that's the right one. Nope. This one here. This is a children's story. Okay. Mr. Dreamcatcher. That was literally written for my son when he was about 2 years old. And the neat thing about this one, in my eyes, was when I wrote it, I'd gotten bored reading all the same stories. Dr. Seuss, the Berenstain Bears, which I'm sure you guys have heard of. Okay. Because of that, my 2-year-old at the time, my son would not go to bed until he was about a month before he turned 8. He wouldn't go to bed without hearing that story. So I figured, what the heck? Let's put it in print. So I did. So right now I've got the 7 in print. And that has only been possible, frankly, because I've turned around and gone, I'm moving forward. I am doing things this way. So I'm getting the energy moving in the right direction. And by doing that, I am much more readily able to actually get things done properly. Okay. So I mean, it's been a real challenge getting things on track. Okay. But that's because quite frankly, it's not an excuse. It's just the reality behind it. I've been able to see how to get other people's life on track since I was a child. Implementing it, that's been a bit of a problem. But what I have found is you take a look at your mechanics. They are brilliant mechanics, and many mechanics are fabulous at getting other people's jobs done, but they tend to drive wrecks. Okay. Many people who are professional housekeepers are great at doing their job, but when they get home, they don't want to work on their own stuff. This can be a problem. What I had to come to the conclusion of was that I was no longer going to work that way. I was going to start getting everything done the way I required it. So, if anybody's got ideas as to, and yeah, I'm asking directly, I don't see the point in hinting. If anybody's got, hey, Ange, how you doing? If anybody's got any ideas on ways that may work better or may work more effectively in the way of marketing or distribution, I'm all ears. I have decided that I'm not paying for a whole pile of more web view and what have you. Yes, people can modify things, optimize them for the internet and that sort of thing, and that's great. But thus far, the thousands of dollars I've spent on it has amounted to virtually nothing in the way of a return. Okay. So from my standpoint, it boils down to an issue of, okay, I've got venues that I can work with, and those are the ones I'm going to focus on. Okay. And I'll just let it grow the slow way, if you will. In the meantime, later this year or very early next year, I will have the Return to Paradise out. And I've already got the artwork designed for the next book, which is actually literally the first one, and it's titled literally Where It All Began. Okay, so I've got to get back in touch with him, but I'm going to be designing the artwork for book number 2 pretty quick as well. Okay, because I've got, like I said, there's 12 in the series. But it boils down to deciding how you desire things to pan out. Now, you'll notice up here, there's a round box right up on my top shelf here. Okay, that's all my old internet all my old income tax. Again, filed in a place where I know where they are, so I can find it if required. Okay, it boils down to into a very important factor. When you're looking at getting energy running in the right direction, you have to be organized to do it. Okay, and it's not a question of organized the way I tell you to. It's a question of organizing it the way that you function. I used to live in what amounts to a warehouse, and yet I could walk into my room. I have stacks of boxes. I'd know exactly, pick this box up, move that one out of the way, and 3/4 of the way down in this box, I've got whatever. Right now, that doesn't work quite as well for me. But what has worked well is I managed to get my front closet emptied out, and my hall closet now is a whole lot neater. And again, if you think in terms of your house, when we're talking about energy flow, take a look at any hallway, any half hallway, as an artery. When you clear the arteries, just like with the human body, if you clear the arteries of your house out so that the energy runs smoothly, you'll find your energy climbs, your temperament stabilizes, and you become far more energetic, far happier, and subsequently far more successful. Okay, at accommodating what you're aiming for. Now, I strongly recommend that any task you have, break it down into 15-minute to half-hour tasks. You'll find it easier to accommodate than to accomplish them. And you'll find that you get a real sense of movement in the projects. Okay, and that's literally, keep doing that. This one here, Believe in Yourself. In here, I literally go into the detail of making certain that you take a big project and break it down. And the reason for that is by breaking it down into smaller projects, you will feel a whole lot more contained, a lot more successful, and you won't feel so much as, oh, I wasted my whole day. Now, this does not mean you shouldn't take time off. Matter of fact, I strongly recommend that you do take time off when you can. Now, with this in mind, okay, I'm going to bring this to a close because I got to get ready to go to work. So, thank you so much for joining me. And until we meet again, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.